So I apologize for that. But I am going to call the meeting to order at 11:08. And let's do roll call. Do you mind doing it either Georgiana or Stacy?
I can take care of it. Chair Simiconda,
Present.
Commissioner Becker,
Present.
Commissioner Dobson,
Present.
Commissioner Dorman. Here. Commissioner Eisenberg, who told me she was not going to be here today, and Commissioner Randall.
Present.
Right, we have some recommended protocols that I'd like to go over. All commissioners should have their microphones on mute to keep the background noise out of the chat room. The chair of the meeting, or Stacy or Georgiana, should ensure everyone has an opportunity to speak if they would like. Commissioners should use the chat function to inform the chair they would like to make a statement, and the chair will announce the commissioners to speak in the order they appear in the chat. And I would like to just make a small reminder that when someone is speaking, hand up, please do not interrupt. We do have an open call to the public that enables the public to address the commission about an item that is not on the prepared agenda. Comments relating to items that are on the agenda will be taken at the time that the item is discussed. Please limit your remarks to 3 minutes per item to allow everyone the opportunity to speak. And with that, we will get to the meat and potatoes of the meeting. I would like to welcome Michelle McNulty, the head of planning and development. Michelle, welcome.
Thank you. And she's here to talk about code compliance and she is the newest director to planning and development services. So we're glad to have her on board.
Thank you.
So I'll turn it over to you to kind of get things started, if that's okay.
Yeah, nice to meet everybody. I'm Michelle McNulty. So Planning and Development Services Director. So really quickly, that includes all of the planning. So comprehensive planning, current planning, zoning code, development services, which is our front counter intake, building safety, and code compliance and real estate services. But just a little bit about myself. I won't alienate anybody by telling you who my teams are. I heard a very lively NFL college football conversation when I got here. I want to stay real silent on that matter. And so, yeah, Stacey had asked me, my understanding is that maybe some of our code compliance officers have been here, and there's been some conversations about how we do code compliance. And so I just wanted to kind of come give my perspective of my understanding. Please forgive me for using notes, but I am newer to this, and so I just want to make sure I get all the points. And so I think one of the things that really needs clarified is that there's not been a directive to not enforce or write citations. They do go by code compliance and not enforcement. It is more of a philosophical model of trying to work with people to come into compliance rather than being heavy-handed, which I believe that, building that relationship in the community does have better outcome because you do get more flies with honey. I have been in a community where it was the heavy gavel of the enforcement and you have a lot more friction with that. And so, but they do write citations when people refuse to comply. So even though they are limited on staff members, they still do try to be proactive in the field finding of violations. But a lot of the complaints come in from community called in. They remain anonymous. But they do come from usually members of our community. When that concern is submitted, the code compliance staff investigates it. They usually go out on site to make sure what they're being told is happening, to understand what is happening. That can be a challenge when it's a kind of a more of a moving violation. So for instance, there's a car that's parked over a sidewalk. That could be the case when the person calls it in, but when the code compliance officer goes out there, that car could be moved. So that can be a challenge. And then, whatever they do see on site, they typically take photographs of. A lot of times they start with asking, if they know for sure it's a violation, they'll start with talking to the property owner and just saying, do you even know you're in violation? A lot of times people don't even know they're violating the code. If it's unclear, they might come back, research the code. If it's a zoning code, they'll talk to the zoning code manager. If it's something with engineering, they may go talk to the engineers, really kind of talk to the subject matter experts, and then they will proceed to reach out Like I said, it is more of a philosophy to do the compliance. They try to work with the individual to come into conformance. If the person refuses, they do issue a citation. It's not a citation like a parking ticket. It's typically a letter that is generated explaining what the issue is. If there's been attempts to work with them to come into compliance, it's pretty much of a documentation letter. And if they're still not getting any conformance, then they can actually issue like a fee, a fine, and an actual monetary citation. So I'm gonna stop there, and if there's any question, hi, I'm Michelle.
I'm Elida.
Elida, nice to meet you.
Questions, anyone? Russ, I know you have a ton.
I do, but I'm hesitating. I'm Russ Randall, and I've had a lot of interactions with the code compliance folks. And frankly, some of what I'm hearing today is different than what I've heard from code compliance people.
Okay. May I ask in what way?
Robert Solomon came and talked to us as a commission, and I don't know, does Robert still work in code compliance?
He does not. He is no longer with the city of Flagstaff.
When Robert did come and talk to us, Robert told us they never issue a citation. In fact, he said they do not even have a citation book, so they could not issue a citation if they wanted to.
He is correct that they do not have a citation book, and as I noted, their citations are in the form of a letter. So it's something that that the code compliance officer writes, and it's actually reviewed by our legal. We have to make sure when we are enforcing, there's a huge legal component of what code compliance does. And, there's a willingness to make some kind of, legal interpretations, but they can be very conservative. So a lot of the times he's right. There's no citation as far as a ticket book. Robert came from the police department. So when he says that, he's talking about an actual ticket like that you would give somebody if you were issuing them that kind of citation. These are really the citation in the form of a letter, and it's reviewed by legal. And I know for a fact they have, because I have been part of, so I may be new as the Planning and Development Services Director, but I was previously the planning director. So I've been with the city for 3.5 years. I have sat through several meetings where we have worked with legal and worked with the zoning code manager and worked with the building inspectors to write citations. So I know for a fact we do issue citations. But to Robert's point, if you're being so technical and saying it's this thing that comes out of a ticket book, he's correct, but it just comes in a different form.
Right, so I also contacted Reggie,
Mhm.
like multiple times, actually. Sometimes it's part of this commission, and sometimes it's a private citizen, not representing this commission. And in my email, I specifically asked Reggie, do you issue citations for repeat offenders? Those who continue to obstruct sidewalks even after notification of violations? Reggie responded, we do not issue citations. We issue notices of violation in different forms. Depending on the type of violation for repeat offenders, we will give them a notice of violation via certified mail, which potentially could go to court with fines assessed. So in order for a fine to be assessed, it would have to go to court.
I believe that to be, if that's what Reggie said, I would believe that to be correct, and I can confirm that.
That is very different than many municipalities.
I just want to go back, and I'm sorry, I'm calling it a citation, and I do have my notes that they call it a notice of violation, so I think it's a nomenclature thing. But I think that notice of violation serves the same purpose, if you would, as a citation. But I'm gonna write a note just to say, confirm if it's a financial citation, if it has to go to.
So like the code compliance people cannot assess a fine.
I'm gonna confirm that. I don't know. I want to confirm that. I know that they can assess a fine. I don't know if they can do it directly or if it has to go to court has been indicated. I don't want to confirm that the wrong way.
Further in the email, I asked Reggie about what it means to go to court. And he said on sidewalk obstructions, it has never gone to court since he has been with code compliance. So my interpretation of that is that there really is no enforcement.
From a financial standpoint, yeah.
From a consequence standpoint. So even though the same residents can do it over and over, and I think there's one resident in my neighborhood on RB Road, I have reported like 15 times. And they ignore it. And I know, I guess code compliance has gone out to see them 15 times and they ignore it. They continue to put bulk trash on the sidewalk. And they've never been fined.
I am Jamie Martinez and I are your liaisons
Okay.
for sidewalk and for police department.
Okay.
The way that Reggie explained it to me is that each time a trash can is put on a sidewalk, when they get a complaint, once they go out there and it's not there, if it's put there again, it's a new complaint. Now that they're down to just one person, because Reggie is the administrator of the office and Kevin is doing everything, those trash complaints, yes, often go unnoticed. The sidewalk blocking can also be a PD call rather than a code compliance call. And I have heard all of that from Reggie. Reggie and Jamie and I have had many meetings, and that's what he keeps saying.
Thank you for that. And my understanding, I know that I've seen a lot of email traffic too, where they've been working, where code compliance has been working with Public Works to get more of the door hangers, reminding people of the bulk pickup changes, because I actually did it right around with Reggie, and you can tell that that's had a huge impact on the way people are bringing out their materials. And so they've been trying to do a public education campaign, getting those delivered and reminding people. It's gone to a different quarterly from monthly, and so thank you for that, yeah. And I think therein lies that challenge too of when that call, that, and just like the car example on the sidewalk is, when that is called in, a lot of times it's moved by the time they get there. And
So just to be clear, when I see like bulk trash sitting on the sidewalk, I should call Flagstaff PD.
I think you should start with code compliance, but I do understand that it can also be a PD call. I would like to, I don't think I would call the 911. If anything, I'd like call the non-emergency number. I also would like to, I mean, I think that is the direction. I also think we need to be considerate of how we're using our police officers. But I think it is a right of way fence.
Could you explain what you mean by that? How we're using our police officers?
Just using them for code compliance issues, and when they might not be able to respond because of what they're responding to. So maybe active enforcement, just thinking of like criminal activity, but I mean, when I've talked to the chief, we've been talking a lot lately. We get a lot, like noise complaints is something that comes to mind. Technically, that isn't something that the police department should respond to, but there are certain noise complaints that come in that don't make sense to send a police officer to. So for an example, there was a dentist's office that had some type of a water sucking machine that was making a loud noise. I know, I'm like, I don't know how to explain this. But, you know, it was at the beginning of the summer and the nice weather, and people have their windows open, and now all of a sudden they're hearing this noise and there's calls. It's like, no, we're not gonna send a police officer out to that. Now, if it's a loud party or it's, you know, something that sounds like there's someone maybe being hurt, I don't want code compliance going to that. So when I say that, we're kind of trying to manage to what calls go where, and if it is something that is more appropriate for code compliance to just being respectful to staffing.
I understand. And
Yeah.
Literally just last week, Rachel and Keith and I and Elida, we met with with Chief Connolly, really to talk about the Citizens Advisory Board, the Crossability Advisory Board. But before the meeting, Keith and I were sitting next to the chief while we were waiting for the meeting to start. And we talked to him a little bit about code compliance. And frankly, he had a lot to say. I don't know if he's met with you.
No, I mean, I've met with him on other things, but he has not shared I will specifically set up a meeting with him to talk about that.
Yeah. And Keith, I mean, you were part of that discussion.
Yeah.
And I don't want to put words into the chief's mouth, but my sense is that he felt like code compliance should really do like sidewalk obstructions, other than like parking where a car is parked on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
He said, the car parked on the sidewalk is more like a police issue, right?
Well, I think so,
I think he said that, right?
because that's a traffic code.
And that's against state law.
Yeah.
That's a violation of state law.
The state traffic code, yes, and even the city has an ordinance against blocking a sidewalk with anything. Meaning, I assume a fence or, I think that's what the ordinance was originated for, was like if the sidewalk, somebody wants to put up a fence because it's their private property and they consider their driveway their own private property, which, it is their private property, but they still have to allow people to cross it.
Right.
And so I think the city ordinance is a lot more vague than the state one as far as blocking sidewalk, but city says you just can't block it. And that kind of covered everything.
And on that, I mean, we have been, like I said, I met with chief and code compliance on the noise stuff, so happy to continue these conversations about, where is a line, and then also if there are things that code compliance is determined to pick up, then we have staffing requests but I can talk to them about that.
I can tell you the city code if you want it.
Sarah has her hand raised.
I have a couple of quick questions that might need just some clarification. Is back to the multiple complaints on, if you take Russ's neighbor, for example. If each one is new, then how do you determine if it's compounding? Like if it's just considered a new complaint or if it's a repeat violation? And then the second one would be, what does it look like for private streets and neighborhoods and in code compliance? I personally live in a neighborhood with fire lane, like our streets are fire lane. So no one's supposed to park on there. And then people feel like they can't put their trash cans in the street because you're kind of going like this in the street. So is that a city thing or does that not apply on private streets would be my question.
I'm sorry, I hate this answer,
No,
but
it's fine.
it depends. And it depends because some private streets are under the maintenance of a homeowners association. And so it just depends who has the oversight of that street. And just so you all know, I think I'm gonna come back.
Yeah.
Because I don't know that a lot of the information, a lot of the information that you're asking me about, but I'm happy to research this and come back, so.
And that was kind of the point of those questions were 2 follow-ups.
Okay.
Not that you have to know them. If you did, that's great. But understanding that you are getting your bearings.
Yeah.
And it's nuanced, right? Because I think HOAs and private townhome streets are newer in the last, 20 to 30 years probably.
Yeah.
Versus public streets in neighborhoods. And so if it's an HOA, if it's not, I'm sure all those things have to get kind of nuanced.
They do, and then I could go on for days about this, but then sometimes they go out of the HOA and into the public, the city accepts them.
Okay.
So that's why we have them built to city standards.
Okay.
Go ahead.
And then just to kind of piggyback on that, what is surprising to me, and I think I learned this from the mayor, is that, sometimes HOAs can make rules that municipalities cannot make.
That is
In the
correct.
state of Arizona,
That's
which kind
correct.
of astounds me actually. But I know with regards to short-term rentals and stuff, HOAs can make rules and the city of Flagstaff can't, which is like, what the heck?
Yeah, and they have to enforce those. If we get a call about something that's in an HOA, we'll say you have to go talk to your HOA board, because we're only gonna enforce the rules that are in our titles, not in city charter, not in the HOA.
Yes. This is something I talked about with the chief as well. I had a situation also in my neighborhood. I walk a lot in my neighborhood and I'm kind of that crabby old man in the neighborhood. Wow, Russ.
Wow.
That's the way it is. We're retired. We got nothing else to do, right? But she's
You're an
like,
active neighbor.
I'm a very active neighbor. But
Are you sure about
I get along with most of them, and the kids like to be in the neighborhood. But I was coming down the street during my walk one day and I saw there was a truck parked on the sidewalk, or right on the sidewalk. And I called the police, non-emergency number. And I said, this is a violation. I would, I would like you to come out and see this. And then like 10 minutes later, I get a call back from the civilian aide saying there's no violation. He's not blocking the sidewalk. And I said, well, he's parked on the sidewalk. I can see it from my house. He's blocked. And he said, no, he's not blocking the entire sidewalk. And it's like, And then, I pulled out the state law, which is not hard to find, by the way. And I went out there and I said, well, I'll come out there and see you. It's down the street from me. I walked out there and the civilian aide was parked on the sidewalk in violation of state law. And then he didn't believe me that it was a violation of state law. I mean, I'm showing it to him. It's like, it says right here, this is Arizona revised statute. It says you cannot park on the sidewalk. So maybe all the way around, some training would be good.
Yeah, that's good feedback.
And then I also have to tell you, and I hate to bring this up, but this is kind of a problem too, I think.
This is why Stacy invited.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Got his hand up. Let's go to Keith.
About reporting and all that, and then code compliance responding. A lot of these things happen at night. A lot of them happen on weekends, and there's no code compliance anybody that's ever gonna come out to see it. So how do those things get fixed? Like Russ, I have a problem with places. I've reported one place probably 70 times, and they still do it. And nothing's ever been resolved. Even the police department hasn't resolved it. And I'll talk to them about that because, that's something that needs to be looked at and worked on. But what I see with a lot of this stuff is if it takes a long time, if it takes a month, a year, or whatever, for anything to get resolved at all, that puts people in danger. That puts people's lives in danger. If a person is in a wheelchair, and I've seen it twice now, where somebody's life was in danger because they had to go out into the street to get around the vehicle. And I reported to the police, and the stuff that responded to the police, I will talk to the police about because, they're the ones that handle a lot of the actual parking and vehicle part of it, because it is the traffic code in Arizona. And so I just want to say, I believe code compliance and all that, and the city needs to look at how they can do it. How they can do it on weekends, how they can respond quickly, how they can, maybe it's something that, we're able to upload pictures of or things like that. Or a place we can text and send pictures to. I don't know. I don't always take pictures because I don't want somebody seeing me taking a picture and then I end up with bullet holes in my car or my home. And I'm done.
No, I really appreciate those suggestions though. Thank you.
I always try to give some sort of a solution to a problem if I can.
And I always like to complain, but whether I have a solution or not, but I'm not as smart as you.
And you're not smart as me either, Russ.
I also know that Rachel and I presented to the city council in October, I think, of 2 years ago, right? Of 23, about the same issue. And Rachel and I think Keith worked on an informal working group, what is it?
Working group.
For a long time, about maybe we could come up with some solutions, because it is an ongoing problem throughout the city, block sidewalks, inaccessible sidewalks, snow-covered sidewalks. And it is a big issue. I've also spoken this in emails to code compliance. My neighbor who lives down the street from me, Dr. Hall, older man, my neighbor for 35 years. He stepped off a sidewalk because it was covered with snow, stepped on a piece of ice, he fell, he hit his head, he died. I mean, this is kind of a big issue, whether other folks believe it or not. It is a big issue for folks with disabilities. It just is. When we spoke with city council about it, when we presented to city council, one of the city council members said, the way it should be is you should educate, you should enforce. And I think by enforcement, Mr. McCarthy meant citation with the penalty, with the financial penalty attached. And I think he's right. I just don't think people pay attention. If there's no consequence for it, then why follow the law? I mean, like, as we drive down to Phoenix, and now especially with the construction zone, I mean, when I see that sign say, reduce speed to 65, I do it. And when it says 55, I do it. I follow the law. But a lot of people go fine by me, but when they see that police car, what do?
Hit their brakes.
They hit their brakes. Now, they're not hitting the brakes because they think they're gonna be educated. They're hitting the brakes because they think that somebody might actually enforce the law and they might actually, receive a fine for speeding. With our current code compliance, I guess with the philosophy, which is not a directive, there's no consequence. So why should they comply?
I appreciate that, and I don't think that this, what I'm about to say is a true statement for everyone. I think there are some people who don't know, they aren't educated, and then there's those that don't care. But it's fun, this winter the snow, we've been having a lot of meetings about winter maintenance, for a lot of different reasons, and this is something that we've talked about a lot in that, you also have examples of people who do go out there and they do, shovel their walks. And then the plows come by.
Yeah.
And the plows fill them back up. And then they go out and shovel again.
Yeah.
And the plow does a second run around and they get filled up again and they are exhausted. So we also have a lot of examples like that. Now on that one, my understanding is not specifically that one of the person who keeps trying. But with snow removal on the sidewalks, my understanding is that code enforcement, I mean, those guys do actually carry shovels in their cars. A lot of times they're just getting out there and doing it. Right, wrong, or indifferent, sometimes that's just easier in the path of least resistance because some people who aren't doing it they may not be able-bodied, they may work 3 or 4 jobs. There could be a lot of extenuating circumstances, but, they do, I know sometimes I'll work with them and then they'll hire somebody to come out and send the bill if that's appropriate. So that's a much more nuanced one, but it's one that we're having a lot of conversations about.
Elida, go ahead.
Thank you. So I'm curious about the notification process and that, so these are individual letters that are written and then reviewed by legal before they're delivered to the offender?
Yes.
I wonder if there's a more efficient way to do that, because it sounds like a lot of extra work and a bit of a delay. And there's probably a lot of violations that are exactly the same. If there could be like form letters approved by legal beforehand, or I wonder if there's a way to get those notifications out sooner.
I think that, again, appreciate that suggestion, and that might be an answer for a portion of them. A lot of times the reason why they have to take that long review is because you have to build the case. I mean, there are a lot of people, and I say this in kind of like, who operate like short-term rentals. There's some people who know how to skirt just under what is legal and what's not, and that's why we have to have that level of review. But maybe for some of the examples you're talking about with, I think to your point, like the multiple and each one being new. If it is like you're getting calls that the trash can is in the sidewalk, like maybe that could be more of that, this is the form letter, this is the form letter. And then we could have, the other process for the more ones that are kind of skirting of we need legal, who's in the right. Because we also get a lot of people who hire their own attorneys when we start communicating with them. And so that's always
A fun time.
I'm sorry, I have a lot of questions.
okay. Can I just finish this note? Could have some form letter.
Absolutely. With regards to that official notification thing, a year ago, I think maybe more than a year ago, I strongly recommended to this commission that we send a letter to city council to actually increase enforcement, meaning enforcement with a financial consequence. This commission at that time decided not to send that letter because I think the commission felt like it was too much telling the code compliance people how to do their jobs. I think, right, maybe. But the very next day, I had a code compliance officer at my house. And I was not there to greet him. But then the very next day after that, I got an email that was a notice of a code violation at my house. The
So
very next
maybe that's
day.
what they do with your neighbors. Is that fair to say? That you don't know what happens with the neighbors, maybe the neighbors get the same email.
My neighbors report that is not true.
Okay.
And my code violation was actually my truck was parked in a side yard. And then I looked up the ordinance and that was an old ordinance. The ordinance was changed. So I should not have gotten a notification at all. But I did the very next day receive a notification. Now, I suggested in an email to the mayor and to Reggie that felt like targeting because I filed a complaint. Reggie assured me it was not targeting, but it felt like it. And I can tell you that notification happened the very next day. There was no review. So I'm not sure about this, the whole notification process.
I guess in what way? Because you're afraid of retribution.
Well, I think perhaps it was retribution, but it did not have to go through a review before I got a notification.
I don't know what kind of notification, I mean, you said you were parked in your side yard. When you say you got a notification, was it more just like a letter, or you said you weren't there to greet them?
It was just
So
an email.
sometimes they might, so
It was just an email.
that's like a very informal. Yeah, I think that, I mean, that sounds like they were doing their job. They were letting you know, hey, you have a.
He told me if they observed it again, I would be cited.
I suspect that's what they're doing with most individuals, is they're educating them, saying you are not in compliance. And then letting them know, I mean, that is a very realistic thing, that you're letting them know you're not in code, and here's the next steps.
But you were in
But I was
compliance
in
with the code.
He looked at the wrong ordinance, an expired ordinance.
And I'm assuming hopefully then they issue, I don't know. They followed up with that. I mean, that's gonna happen.
No, it's fine. You know, it is what it is. And, yeah, I won't describe it as retribution. I'm not sure that it was. It felt like retribution. It really felt like targeting, quite frankly, especially as I walked up and down the street. And I took pictures of all the other vehicles that were sitting in their side yards, and none of them got a notice. But, you know, it is what it is, right?
I really hope it was just odd timing. And because I really do not believe that our code and compliance officers are targeting or acting on retribution. I think they hold a lot of integrity, but I'd like to think that was just really bad timing.
I'd also like to make, because Reggie's group is kind of near and dear to me, because Jamie and I have worked with them for 2 years. This commission appointed us as liaisons, and so we worked very closely with them. But when they're at full staff, they still only have 4 members. One is administration, 2 are on the streets. Flagstaff is what, 550 square miles? And so they're responsible for all of that. And the 4th is responsible for dark skies. So if they get 10 complaints a day, they have to follow up with those 10 complaints by doing their job. And that gives them no time. As Reggie has described it, they take about 2 hours a day to do in seat work, for lack of a better term, in the office work. And then they go out on the streets and do everything that they have to do. But they're, you know, and I'm not saying that none of this is unimportant. It's all important. I myself have been stuck on a sidewalk because somebody didn't remove their cinders. So it's important. But we have to remember that there are also, you know, they've got to go out, don't they go out and inspect sidewalks that were just put in to make sure they're up to code? You know, in my area alone near 4th Street in Huntington, they've redone every sidewalk. And they've been doing it most of the summer. And so those are the things that they also have to do. If you guys understood the depth of what these people do, a team of 4, and Reggie says he does hit the streets when it becomes overwhelming. But you know, I think that we have to remember that we're a commission of inclusion. And right now we're not being very inclusive because we're not giving grace to people. And now they're down to 1 member on the street. So, yes.
So Rachel, as the chair of the commission, are you recommending that the city increase the staff
No,
of code compliance?
no, I don't think that there's money in the budget. They would have to rob from Peter to pay Paul. So another division will end up suffering if they have to take money to hire someone else. You know, those are the logistics that we're not entitled to know. As a commission, as a private citizen, we can involve further, but it's really not our job as the commission to go into divisions and start picking apart the way they do things. We're an advisory commission to the city council. So if we've got issues that means that we need to make a motion, vote, and forward a letter on behalf of the commission to the city. The city doesn't have to approve the things that we're sending. They also don't have to reply. So I think it's super important for us to remember, we need to be inclusive. Disability is only one portion of inclusivity. And so I think that it's important for us to remember that. And it's important to remember there are only 3 people. There are only 2 people right now. So Keith, I saw your hand up.
I think it's critical that these things get taken care of quickly. I really do, because people's lives are in danger. And I mentioned this just a little bit ago. I saw a little girl almost get hit. And just a couple of weeks ago, I saw somebody in a wheelchair almost get hit. And what do? If it takes forever for something to happen, we could have a life that's lost. And whether it's a little girl, whether it's somebody's mom, dad, son, daughter, whatever, to me, a preventable death, there's no excuse for it. There's a way to prevent it. There's no excuse for it. And I've experienced things already several times now. And I think things need to get done quicker. Whether we need to get more people, I'm okay with that. I, as a taxpayer, am willing to pay more taxes to get more people out there protecting our sidewalks and those things. I've seen issues with snow. I mean, my wife is homebound for almost 5 months, one of those years, because nobody shoveled their sidewalks. And I reported these and nobody came and did anything about it. And also the corners were not done. I mean, this is just little bits, but I used to know somebody with the city, and that person told me the city will not do anything about anything until somebody dies. And they may not do it then until maybe 2 or 3 people die. And so to me, I think that's not good. And I think that, if there's a way to fix a problem, then we ought to look at it. And like I say, I'm a taxpayer and I will be happy if you want to put it on a vote. I will be happy to vote yes to get more people. And if it doesn't, if the vote fails, well, the vote fails. We can't get everybody happy.
I will just say, as far as the budget request, I can't make any guarantees, but part of the reason why we've been having so many winter maintenance conversations is because we do recognize we have a bigger need than we do have resources to take care of it. We also have several different divisions that take care of different portions. And then we have some areas that I'm just gonna say haven't been assigned to a division, and code compliance often becomes that catch-all. And that's not just with the winter maintenance, but also the vegetation. So I know that there's the Snow Heroes volunteer group, and we're trying to do what we can with the use of volunteer groups. The sustainability has the Snow Heroes. We've actually talked a little bit about doing something similar with vegetation and, exercising that. Reggie has some creative ideas of a group he is going out to. He has $20,000 a year budgeted for the property cares ordinance and to help, maintain properties. Yeah, I know, it makes me cry, that's all. And a lot of times that money actually gets spent. He uses that for snow maintenance to kind of take care of some of the worst offenses. I say it for 2 reasons. One, we're not waiting for someone to die. We're actually being very proactive.
I'm hoping.
And the second reason why I tell you that is we are collectively at the different divisions who have staff dealing with this, looking at a collective ask of, do we come together? Because even if we could get more money for the maintenance side, if it goes to public works, that's less on Reggie and his team. And so we all benefit. And that's why I've inserted myself into the conversation, because I was actually stunned to hear that they were plowing certain areas. And that they were the catch-all for that. But I mean, I want to share that that's also a testament to their demeanor, that when something needs to get done, I've never heard them say that's not in my job description, or someone hasn't died yet. They say, I got the shovel in the back of the car, I'll just go take care of it. And so we really are trying to work on that. I think the things that you're saying, it's just, we need even more resources.
I have actually, I live on Solier, And I take my little scoot right here. And we go up to Walmart several times a week. We go to the Aquaplex several times a week. And so I'm always calling Reggie and Kevin and saying, hey, look at this. And Jamie's making those reports. And 3 times this summer, I have actually seen, and I guess 4th Street isn't maintained by the city, it's ADOT.
Well, that is correct, which is the other fun we have.
I saw Kevin starting at the 4th Street Bridge and going all the way down Solier and cleaning up cinders.
Yeah.
It was Kevin himself. And this week, from what I understand, they've got some probationers that are gonna be doing vegetation cleanup.
Yeah.
So it's not that they're not trying. It's just that they need the people and they need the help, and it's not that they're not trying. I'm telling you that Reggie and his team are probably close to Stacy in the city. So I know you hate to hear that.
She is the highest bar though.
She really is. Yes, yes. Russ,
Just a couple of things. First off, I understand this commission is an advisory committee. We can't make decisions like budget decisions. We can't make decisions about how Reggie or Kevin or anybody else does their job. I mean, that's just not our role. But our commission goals include, and these are our goals, to improve access to housing, buildings, and transportation. This is about improving access.
now tie that into the word advisory commission.
Excuse me.
How do you make those two work?
No, excuse me. Our goals are to improve access.
But how do we do that? We're not allowed to, and I may be wrong,
We do
but
that.
it's not up to us unless it has been approved through council. It's not up to us to reach out as commissioners to say Scott Overton and say, I'm a commissioner and I want this done. That's not our role. Our role is to
No.
be an advisory commission
No,
to the council.
I disagree. I think,
Hold on, Stacy.
no, you hold on.
No, you hold
No,
on.
I had the
Point of
floor,
order.
Rachel.
Point of order.
Point of order yourself. I
That
had the
means,
floor.
that means every conversation stops, Russ.
Actually not. You
Be
need to-
respectful.
We need to take a break.
You need
Yes,
to
we
you
do.
need to
Let's
table
take a
that.
5-minute
Can we
break.
please take a break,
You
please?
need to table that.
We're gonna take a 5-minute break.
That would be nice.
Don't stare me down, Russ. I'm here to defend code compliance. I understand where you're coming from.
Stacy just said, take a break. Don't talk to me.
Let's just take a moment.
Okay.
It's a
If
break.
anybody needs
Don't
to
talk
leave
to
the
me.
room for a minute, we'll come back at 11:55. For folks online, I'm gonna go ahead and mute the room, but we'll reconvene at 11:55. We are back at 11:55. We feel like we're in a place that we can get back started. So just real quick, because I was asked to explain what a point of order is. If things are getting heated and the chair asks for a point of order, and frankly, if anybody asks, any commissioner asks for a point of order, the things need to kind of stop for a moment. We redirect and we can pick things back up. So my recommendation as things were getting heated is that we just take a quick 5-minute break, let everybody kind of cool off and get back started again. Go ahead.
This is Russ. My understanding of a point of order is a point of order is used when procedure is not being followed.
It can also be used as a way to bring the conversation back together and kind of stop and quickly redirect emotions.
So if the discussion is going into a place that is not within the procedure, that's when a point of order can be used.
It can be used in those instances, yes. Sometimes a point of order can be called to say, hey, let's take a pause. Let's talk about, whether it's, I'm gonna give you the rest of your time, or I need to ask a couple of clarifying questions. It has some flexibility.
And just to be clear as well, my understanding is that when a member has the floor, that member should not be interrupted, even by the chair. Is that correct?
The chair runs the meeting, so they kind of have some latitude. Best practices to not. And so I think at this point, we've taken a cool off period. I'd like for you to finish your comments, and then any questions can come after your comments are made.
Thank you.
Are we okay if I interject with a comment?
Let Russ finish, I think.
No, I'll yield the floor to Alina.
Thank you. I just, on our break, I looked on the city's website about the commission and our purpose. And it's actually a little nondescript as to who we're advising. It's the commission's goals are to expand educational opportunities, improve access to housing, buildings, and transportation, have greater participation in recreational, social, and cultural activities, encourage greater opportunity for employment, and expand and strengthen rehabilitative programs and facilities. So because it's not very specific, like who we report to or exactly, what our bounds are with what we recommend, I would like it if we all act as the fierce advocates we are and shamelessly give advice or suggestions, knowing that we have to go through the proper channels and some may be shot down, rerouted or whatnot. But I would like it if we try to avoid limiting the effect that we can have as much as possible. Let's push boundaries on how much we can advocate.
And I want to be really clear, all of the commissions of the city are appointed and determined by council. Staff is not able to take any direction from a commission. We are here to help navigate through city process. So the commission's role is truly to advise the city council on things that you feel need or should be implemented, or that you would like them to take up and consider. But they are the decision makers. They're the ones that get to decide. Staff can't. I mean, it's very clear that we don't take direction. We also can't take direction from the council. That direction goes to our city manager, and then the manager makes the decision as to how that gets relayed to staff. Individually, advocate how you want to advocate. We all have that ability individually and in our personal capacity, but as a commission, we have to be very careful to stay in your lane with council.
But really with council, I mean, we can suggest or bring up anything.
Absolutely.
We don't, yeah.
But as a commission, that has to be agreed on by the commission in its entirety before those recommendations or advice or requests get forwarded to council. It has to be a majority of the commission that says, yes, we're going to do that.
Thank you.
Of course. Russ?
Thank you, Stacy. And I think what you're giving us is a lesson in charter government, right? Because that's how charter.
Council manager form of government, yes.
Right. And looking at the city charter, the city manager's powers and duties, and I guess you answered the city manager, right? Under the city manager duties, the second duty of the city manager is to see that all ordinances are enforced. Not just some, but all ordinances are enforced. That's, I mean, that is in the charter. And then if you look up the word enforce, enforce means to compel compliance. Then if you look up compel is to apply penalty for non-compliance. We're not enforcing the city ordinance. And in the charter, it says the city manager shall enforce the ordinances.
I would like to make a motion to table this. I think that we've got other really heavy things that we need to decide. We can come back to this at another time. And so I'm gonna make a motion that we table this until maybe next month or the month after.
I would recommend instead of a motion to table, a motion to postpone.
Okay. So I'm gonna make a motion to postpone. Is there anybody that will second? Right, motion fails.
So Michelle, just to kind of finish what I was saying, I wasn't really finished.
But you were finished because I was acknowledged. And so it's Sarah's turn and then I'll go back to you.
I thought Michelle was actually going to respond.
I was actually gonna jump.
Yeah, I saw that you were.
To Michelle. Michelle, myself, are not able to answer or speak for the city manager. If you feel that he's not fulfilling his obligations, that's a conversation you can have with him. That's a conversation you can have with council.
And can I respond to that? Or will I be out of order?
Sarah needs to speak and then you can speak.
I just would like to say kind of on a different, like a little bit of a different track here is, yes, we probably do need to postpone, but there's, I think, a couple of things, right, that you're gonna follow up and come back to us on. And I think one of those things that I would love to hear about is those creative ways that you all are exploring so that we can see the whole picture. Because I think sometimes we see what we see, right? And, you know, they're valid, but we don't know what's going on in those meetings. Not that we should, but if we can know that there's some proactive steps being taken on the back end to try to create more opportunities for clear sidewalks, we don't want to be punitive, but there is a point to that. If you're just endlessly getting 20 citations without enforcement, you know, then you're just never gonna do it, right? But just to know what's going on the backside of things, I think would be super helpful. And that's all I wanted to say, you know, in general.
Sarah, Stacy and I just had a quick conversation.
Oh,
And we
excuse
will
me.
be,
I'm sorry, you had told Russ that he could go
right, and I
after.
need to respond really
Sarah.
quick. The whole commission is gonna, I'm referring to Sarah's question.
Okay.
So we are going to invite Michelle McNulty back in March.
Okay.
And so maybe you guys can shoot those questions to Stacy and she can then forward them to Michelle. So,
Yeah.
okay, Russ,
I think if we're going to use Robert's Rules of Order, we should really use Robert's Rules of Order. Stacy.
Robert's Rules of Order are a guideline. They are not the requirement. It is the chair's, it's her meeting. She runs the meeting. She gets to determine how that meeting gets run. I think we're getting hung up on some small rules. I think we really should try to get back to the conversation and the issue at matter so that we can move forward. We can give Michelle some good feedback, and that's my recommendation.
Thank you for that, Stacy. Just to reply to, with regards to whose responsibility is what, 3 of us did meet with the city manager and we discussed this very issue with the city manager. And the city manager said all ordinances are being enforced. They were not being enforced because there's no penalty. And without penalty, there's no compelling, and without compelling, there's no enforcement. So these ordinances are not being enforced. Do you have a response to that, or?
I believe that they are. Whether we're not, I do believe that we are enforcing our codes. I'd like to talk to Reggie about, you know, when we're ever, you know, getting to that penalty stage. But I do believe we're enforcing our code.
And I can respond to this, right?
Yeah, there's still a conversation.
Okay. Reggie has told me that as far as block sidewalks, unshoveled sidewalks, it's never gone to court. So there has never been a penalty assessed, at least in his tenure. So, I mean, it is what it is, right? Other folks also have this concern besides this commission or besides some of the members of this commission. I know the Community of Practice Transition Team of Flagstaff, which represents youth and young adults with disabilities, Northern Arizona Community of Practice Transition Team, sent a letter to City Council in April of 2024, asking for enforcement of city ordinance. Specifically, it says, as you know, many of our communities, youth walking is the primary mode of transportation. For youth with disabilities, inaccessible sidewalks pose a grave danger. Please consider what you must, or please consider what it must be like to have a hearing impairment. And rather than walking on a sidewalk on your way to school, you need to walk in the street where you might not even hear the traffic because parked cars are blocking the sidewalk. Imagine what it must be like to be using a wheelchair as a child to navigate a trip to the store, only to have to leave the sidewalk, drop off the curb, and use the street because a trash can is blocking the sidewalk. Imagine what it must be like to have a visual impairment. As you walk over to your friend's house, you slip on a patch of ice that you couldn't even see. I mean, so this is kind of a strong, passionate letter to the city council from the Community of Practice Transition Team about the dangers of obstructed sidewalks. And then at the end, please consider our call for increased enforcement of city ordinance as a plea for assistance with what is of grave importance. And please act expeditiously before a child is seriously hurt or worse. This was sent in April of 2024 from the Community of Practice Transition Team. I post this because I feel very strongly about this, obviously, but I post this on social media, on Facebook and Nextdoor primarily. I got a lot of responses on Nextdoor about this issue as well. Some of those responses are like, thanks for the post. I posted about this a couple of years ago because my husband tripped and fell over trash on the sidewalk. I later learned that the city chooses not to enforce. This is a good reminder. Thank you. I am one of those elderly walkers and I appreciate it. Many of my areas who fail to take care of their snow are second homeowners for short-term rentals. For those who do not maintain their sidewalks, local, state, and federal laws apply. Furthermore, there's a state law that requires pedestrians to use sidewalks when sidewalks are present. Unfortunately, these laws are not enforced by the city. Many of our sidewalks are not usable, forcing pedestrians into roadways. We need more effective enforcement with the goal that 100% of our sidewalks are safe. These are obstructions and hazards from overgrown vegetation, trash bins, parked cars, collapsing retaining walls, fences, snow, ice, cinders, etc. Until effective enforcement happens, it is inevitable that someone will become injured or perhaps even killed due to the poor state of our city sidewalks. All of us should do what we can to enforce the city sidewalk ordinance.
I hope that you educate those people who are posting that it is their job to shovel the portion of the sidewalk in front of their house.
Thank you.
Because I hear what you're saying, but I'm wondering how many of those people are sitting there with unshoveled sidewalks that they haven't shoveled. And so, I think that goes back to that education campaign and those creative ideas that we really need to focus on of the solutions to this. Russell, I think I would just like to say to you, I don't deny that there's an issue and that we have a challenge. We are actively working towards figuring out solutions. So those are very compelling, but you're preaching to the choir. I know that we are really working to do better and but we also need to educate people on what their role in this is as well.
Absolutely, and that's what I posted.
Good.
I mean, and Lou, I don't know the name of the woman who puts out the stuff for the city, like on social media.
Sarah Langley.
What is Sarah?
Sarah Langley.
I just forwarded along from what she posted onto my feed and my timeline on social media where I have it. I also get a lot of stuff like, it's none of your business. You know, don't try to tell me what to do with my garbage cans. And as some of these folks know, and I try to enforce it myself as I walk down the street. And I have been called every name in the book. I have been threatened, with physical threats against my life because I just moved somebody's sidewalk or somebody's garbage can. My wife tells me I shouldn't do that anymore. But, I'm just trying to make these sidewalks as accessible as they can be. But then, and you just said, I'm speaking to the choir, but you just said there's no directive to not enforce. You're saying this is a philosophy. Well, then how do I,
I didn't say there was no, we do.
You did, I quoted you.
If I might, Mayor's got her hand up, so I think it would be good to hear from her. Mayor, oh, there you go.
Thank you. Thank you. Um, sorry, I'm home with a little bit of, let's see, in my head. Um, I think that this is a great conversation, and it is one that that we have at every meeting. And I've relayed to staff that this is the number one thing that I hear from this commission, every single meeting. And that is because it's so important. And, and because it's a persistent problem that, hasn't, we haven't been able to solve. And I know that staff, I've spoken to the city manager and said, that I believe we need more code compliance staff. And, and he doesn't disagree. And then it comes to, what Rachel said and what Michelle said, you know, there's the balancing of all of the positions that the city needs. But I will continue to advocate for more staff in code compliance and advocate for, um, creative ways that we can get this problem addressed. So I think I see it kind of as in the middle of where this conversation has been. We have to give, or I would like for us to give grace to the people who are trying to find a solution. And this is a really critical issue that we have, that we've got to solve or at least make a dent in. And so I can also talk to staff, as can Stacy and Michelle, about increased public awareness about all the things having to do with sidewalks. And I think maybe rather than strictly up to now, our social commentary has been, don't forget, this is your responsibility to shovel your sidewalk. Don't forget, you need to do this. I wonder if maybe we should have members of the commission in some videos talking about why it is important to not have your garbage can on the sidewalk or to shovel your sidewalk, and also mention the Snow Heroes program, because I posted one time a phone number for calling to report a sidewalk that's not cleared, and I had my butt handed to me by people on social media who were like, how dare you, you know, the snow plow leaves the snow. And so I think I see all, I think I see all sides of this. The community is frustrated that they have to shovel, and yet we have, many people, and not just, people who are living with different disabilities. I mean, it's just impossible to navigate our sidewalks in the winter. So I guess this is just me saying, I think that you're all right. And I think we understand that this is a problem. And I think we can up our, public education. And I can continue to advocate for additional staff or a different, you know, I'll talk with Michelle and with Reggie and with the city manager about maybe there's a different way to configure staff or whatever. But I just wanted to weigh in and say that I agree that this is a major problem, and um and I'll continue to work with staff and with you to try to find a solution.
Um, I'm gonna make a suggestion, and I think that probably the commission will have to discuss it, make a motion and move forward. But we do have, a sidewalk liaison. We do have a police liaison. And we can work with all of us as commissioners and even other liaisons can work with Sergeant Rentala. He's doing amazing social media outreach right now. And there is a huge one about blocked sidewalks. I can call him after this meeting, talk to him if that's okay, Michelle. And ask him if the commissioners can start making videos with him, post them all over. They don't have a TikTok yet and I've dragged him for that. But, you know, start making those videos and getting those pushed out. Mayor, what do you think?
I think the more education about this, the better. And I think helping the public to understand why, like, this isn't just Big Brother trying to get them to move their garbage can. This is a regard for your neighbors.
Michelle, what do you think?
I mean, I think it's a great idea, but I think it's up to Stacy, so I'm gonna.
Our social media, our outreach teams can
Okay,
work together.
okay. Russ?
And I could not agree. The more education we do, the better. But I also have to point out, I have done multiple letters to the editor of the Daily Sun. I have a copy of one right here, which is educating folks about why we need to clear our sidewalks. And at the close of each of those letters, I put, clear accessible sidewalks are written in the city ordinance. By complying, you may actually be saving yourself a citation, which I guess is kind of not true, but I was kind of hoping it was true, I guess, maybe a bluff, right? But we are educating folks. And I also have to say, there are other ways to do this. You know, we're not the only city in the country that has this issue. But I did some research. I know what Yuma does, and I know what Cottonwood does, and I know what Prescott does. Those are the three I chose to research. And they do issue citations that have a penalty attached, a fine attached. And then if people choose to, I guess, challenge that, there is a hearing officer who meets once a month, and those people can go and actually, you know, challenge that citation with the penalty of fine.
We've actually, it's funny that you bring up the hearing officer. We actually found in our code that there is a whole section written in there, we've been exploring, we've actually been researching what would a hearings officer do and what role and looking at several different things that we're trying to do across building department and building and development.
I saw something about a hearing officer in there too, but it's like, why do these other cities, why have they been able to do this? And our city has not been able to do that. And I think maybe it is that somehow, some way, and I don't know if this is our code compliance folks or their supervisor or city council has sometime decided that our philosophy is to educate and not to enforce.
I think it's to work with the community to bring them along. And I think, you brought up something that I think it was you and the short-term rentals and second homeowners. I also think that our community is experiencing things that maybe we didn't experience 4 or 5 years ago, because we do have a different makeup of who lives in our neighborhoods. And so things that maybe weren't as problematic and were easier, right? Like, it's easier to work with somebody when that property owner is the one that's standing at the driveway versus I'm just renting this house. And I mean, the zoning code manager said, so they have a short-term rental next to her, and they actually came to her house during a snowstorm because the house they were staying in didn't even have a snow shovel. And so, I mean, and so there's an opportunity, right? There's an opportunity to educate the landlords of these and the owners of these rentals of, hey, you own a house in a snow climate, you might want to equip it with a shovel or hire a service. But I think what you're seeing is, and what we're seeing in a lot of different areas, is a combination of, we have new problems that we haven't had because we have a changing demographic. And so I don't think anyone's not doing their job. I think we're just responding to a changing environment.
Keith, I'm gonna get to you, but first I'm gonna ask, what do you think about, because you, Keith, Jamie, and I were doing sidewalk stuff. What do you think about restarting that informal working group and possibly creating a letter to send to council about our concerns, that we would like to see a hearing officer, that we support that, those types of things? And maybe it would have to be in February or March, we come back with that letter and ask the commission to vote on it and forward it to council. I know that's a little late in the snow season, but I think the next time that we have, the working calendar is not going to be completely full. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful idea. Except I don't think it has to be March. The working calendar does not set the agenda. I mean, at any public meeting, a commissioner can ask for something to be placed on an agenda.
Correct.
But that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be placed on the agenda. We have a working calendar for city council and that sets the agenda.
I've seen.
But not-
things out there that take-
But not,
Yes.
not for the next 8 months.
Well, but at least through the end of this year, the commission decided on the things that they wanted to hear about. I think going back to the conversation we had a little earlier with Michelle coming back in March with kind of follow-up of the questions, the ability for her to do research, the ability for her to culminate, all of the things that they are doing to share that with the commission when we talk about, getting a picture of the larger, work that's going on. I think that can complement, right? We give her an opportunity to research, come back, talk to her people, come with some information, and then that letter can follow on those heels. Because you don't want to get in front of, well, the city's already doing this, right? So hearing back from Michelle might help inform that letter a bit better. But we want to talk about city snow operations. We want to talk about, what's the other big one? We have the regional plan next month. We have an introduction to our human resources and risk management, talking about ADA coordinators and transition plans. These were big items that the commission, as part of their planning meeting, decided that this is where we want to put them. So I want to be really careful with, you can ask for an item, but it may not fit with the things that we've already agreed upon to come forward. That's what so yes, working calendar doesn't necessarily set in stone, but I think it's important to keep in mind that the working calendar has been built with an agreement of the commission on what items are going to come when. And so if we're going to bring something else, what gets placed at a later time?
You've had your hand up.
Yes, I've actually come up with, ideas and thoughts and solutions on a whole lot of these things. Nothing's gonna be free. I wish it was. I really, really do. But it's not. It's gonna cost money. Some will cost more than others. Some can be done relatively inexpensively. I've got, ideas on short-term rentals. I got it on snow removal in people's houses and front yards or whatever, sidewalks. What is this? Oh, trash. I've got a solution for that. I've got a solution for parking. I've got a solution for education. And I've got a solution for plowing streets.
I have a suggestion to that. I'm
So
sorry.
it's gotta cost money, so people are gonna have to, people are gonna have to figure, the mayor and the city and stuff's gonna have to figure out how to come up with a pool of money that we may be able to put towards these kind of things. Because we can talk all day long, but if we don't work on trying to get them fixed, they're not gonna get fixed. And unfortunately, we're not gonna be able to fix them without some money. And that's where it's probably gonna boil down to, number one is trying to get some money for it. Some things can be done relatively inexpensively though.
I think as soon as you can get, I think that's part of this working group that Rachel, you're suggesting. Fantastic, because, we can take that, we can look at, is this part of that bigger conversation that we're already having? Is this, get it in, so we can put a budget request in, have a compelling story. So good, thank you for that.
So what do you think about the four of us getting the group back together and working on that between now and March and putting together, if it ends up being a 10-page letter, it ends up being a 10-page letter, and hopefully the city council is willing to read it. But what do you think about the four of us getting back together?
I'm
working on
willing.
that? Okay,
Yeah,
and then Elida, your hand has been up.
Yeah, so in regards to revenue, I think it is very important to educate people first, to give grace and understanding when there are those extenuating circumstances. But when we have the people who have put out their trash cans on the sidewalk 15 times, been notified 15 times, if there was more enforcement on fees, that could help with the revenue issue a bit. I also, just kind of a brainstorm idea, but the city provides water and trash services. If snow removal is something that's coming up a lot with people with second homes, short-term rentals, yada, yada. What if it was an option for people to sign up and pay the city for snow removal services?
That's a fantastic idea. I don't even know if that's I don't even know if that's possible.
Yeah, maybe a
But I
conflict of
love-
interest, like you're
I-
required to remove this, but you can pay us to do it. I don't
But
know.
like, I know like where I have lived before, there was like, road improvement districts. And so like maybe even there could be like forming of a district of somehow that people pull together and fund to pay for that, like they would hire a contractor. I think that you're onto something. So yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you.
I'll let us say that again so I can take note of it.
The idea was that perhaps the city could offer snow removal services that people pay for.
Russ, let me finish writing this down and then I'll go to you.
It's fine, Rachel. I can't multitask at all, so. Yeah.
I'm old.
No, I'm a lot older than you, and you're a teacher.
Go ahead.
Oh, you're my old.
And Michelle, you have to understand, this is one of my old students. So she likes being able to tell me what to do, you know? But that's right, here we go.
You developed a really good human.
Thank you. I didn't develop this human, I just helped in the development of this human. Michelle, I have to tell you, and this commission, again, we've been talking about this for 2 years. And like Becky put it, it is a big issue, and maybe some of us make it into a bigger issue than it really is, but it is. The Snow Heroes program came out of this commission.
Yes, I think I did.
You know, it did. And that's because we looked at what other cities do and they have these volunteer kind of things. And it's like, why can't we do that too? This commission has also suggested, NAU has like and I don't remember the name of the group of it.
Access service.
Is that what it is? Because Susan brought it to us, right? And we suggested to the city in a letter, let's connect with that program because even those college students who are supposed to do community service.
Well, and they also, we can also sign up to be part of acts of service. Everybody gets.
I'm in Snow Heroes.
Yeah.
I'm signed up for Snow Heroes as a 66-year-old man. I can get out there and shovel driveways,
I mean, I was even thinking like I don't know, I know Master Gardeners is more about like, I think gardening, but is maintenance, like vegetation maintenance, is that a group to tap into? I know they have to do certain volunteer work, but no, I think that's great to think that way.
my sister is in Master Gardeners and they do service work.
Okay,
And if nothing else, they work in the community gardens.
yeah,
And you know about the community gardens, right? But they do, the Master Gardeners do, but, but we have suggested to the city to contact and coordinate with the NAU program, the service.
And have it in the chat then.
Yeah, they're part of our outreach group that's actually with Snow Heroes. Yeah.
And I actually just got a letter from them. They want to know from this commission what we would like to see. And so that's one of the things I was gonna talk to about the to from portion of today's meeting. About how we want to move forward with that. If commissioners agree, this working group can possibly undertake that. And while we're putting this letter together in March, if it's okay, then we can forward the acts of service in other places that we know about.
Yeah.
We can work with you guys maybe to make that contact. I know you guys are fabulous at contacting people, but maybe if we can help you guys with that. I think that was also one of the intents of the working group was to help make those connections and, I still reach out to Stephen Thompson.
That's weird. I was literally thinking of his name as you said it. But I was even thinking, like, I know with the graffiti busters, Reggie has worked with Stephen to make that part of one of the approved volunteer activities that city staff can do. And maybe we can do that. I don't know if Snow Heroes is part of that, but maybe even the vegetation cleanups. I know we do creek cleanups. But I think in that vein, there's a lot of, that would be a good one.
What do you two, because Jamie's not here, so he just rides along. What do you think? What do you guys think about?
I think there's all sorts of things we can get involved with. There's also things we have suggested to the city as well. Perhaps we could have, like we have neighborhood watch. We could have like sidewalk patrol. So like when old people like me, when we're out on our walks, we could be like a little sidewalk patrol.
I don't know if we want to give you a badge. Okay, that's fair.
It was the safety patrol that they have brought for many years. But a bastard would be good, but literally something like that. I mean, I don't know. as an older person, it is hard for me to confront these people and I think you're right, because sometimes it's not even the people who live there.
No.
It's the people who are there in their short-term rental. But when they're half my age and twice my size, it's kind of a difficult confrontation for me.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of different things you suggest. I have to tell you though, Michelle, there's one other thing that might come before you too. And it's not just the obstructed sidewalks, but it's the broken sidewalks. And that's a huge problem in our city.
Yeah.
And we know in our city that, that sidewalk being in working condition is responsibility of the resident. Now there is a program that if you have a problem, and I've used this program where my sidewalk was kind of broken up, I contacted the city will pay for half of the repair and the resident has to pay for the other half.
I don't think it's as generous anymore.
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
I believe you're correct. I'm actually just gonna crash course on this because. Yeah.
The city doesn't do that anymore?
They do it.
They
It's
do,
just-
but
they
it's
do.
like a, what, 25%?
I think Reggie said it's
And
25.
Reggie or
Yeah,
Mayor's.
mayor's also.
Oh. Mayor, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. This doesn't necessarily help with the enforcement issue that we're having, but I have spoken to our IT department about AI and apps that would be available to the public to help notify staff of things around town that need to be fixed. And there are conversations about using this kind of technology. Again, it's got to work in tandem with how we actually enforce the correction of whatever that is. But this conversation is happening all over the city, and I share frustration about the speed. But I also know from working with staff very closely that they all take it seriously, and they understand the frustration.
Thank you, Mayor. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
The city website says it's 50-50.
I'll double check. I'll come back on Margie because I've heard different.
If it's not 50-50,
They need to fix the website.
We're working on
The program changed. I would need to go back and look at it, but I think they're now kind of looking at sections of the city and providing funding to fix areas and not having to charge residents. But don't quote me. It's changed a bit, but I need to go back and look.
Okay.
Well, I
Yeah.
know for sure they're doing areas because the Huntington 4th Street corridor
Yeah.
is beautiful. When I first had my scoot in February, I got stuck in a snowstorm. But in February, before I got stuck that day, I almost fell off the sidewalk because there was a ginormous piece that had been taken out and not replaced before the snow started. And so I kind of went sideways a little bit. And so it was very scary. But, in areas of Flagstaff, I know that it is being done. So, maybe we need to make suggestions about, areas of town. Because trust me, I'm out in this thing a lot more than I used to be, and I'm seeing a lot of areas. And they are things that Jamie and I report to Reggie. Jamie does a weekly report. And so there are things that are being reported. We just understand this is government. And when I was in the military, one of the things we learned was hurry up and wait.
Right.
That's how government is.
There
Hurry
you
up
go, yeah.
and wait.
There you go.
Yeah, I think that happens only because we allow government to make us wait, but, and sidewalk repair is going to be another issue that comes before you because there's a lot of places in Flagstaff that have that concern. And if the city has chosen to reduce the city's share of that cost, and to put this in the minutes, that's ridiculous. That was a really, really poor decision to make. In doing some research, it's about 50-50 with regards to municipalities in Arizona, who's responsible to pay for those repairs. In California, it's not. In California, it's nearly every municipality pays for those repairs. But
I think we need to do some more research, 'cause it sounds like if there's it sounds like, yeah.
It might be a partnership, it might be a collaboration of the two areas, so we need to get some clarification. I know it went through a few changes, but I was not involved in those conversations, completely. But I'm happy to get clarification and I can send that out.
And Elida, it sounds like this is something that you're really interested in as well. We can't have another commissioner join our informal working group, but you most certainly are welcome to start attending those. I will check with everybody and find out times that are gonna work again, and I'll start sending out Zoom invites and we'll start working on this. You know, I've got a couple of things coming up this week, so I probably won't get an email out to all of us until early next week, but if you're interested, you can certainly join. And anybody that is not a commissioner can join. I'm not excluding commissioners, but we don't want to create a quorum in the working group. So you can join our-
There's a small conflict.
I also, my plate is getting pretty full, so I don't know if I'll be able to make it or not.
Yeah.
I want to.
You know, the other thing I heard from you, Russ, is the neighborhood watch thing. The committee might be able to help with that. I think we could probably talk to chief. And maybe that's another thing that the committee takes on in addition to what we've already discussed. It could be something that the police officers help us set up those neighborhood watches and find out if maybe for the next 3 months, or I don't know, something, we can have an officer or two go with us as the committee, not the commission, but go out and try and start those neighborhood watches and walk the streets and talk to people. And that may be something that may work better under chief than it does anything else. So we'll talk about that in the informal working group. We'll decide, because all of us, coincidentally, all of us that are in the informal working group are now going to be on the committee. And I know we're not supposed to cross those over, but ultimately this is a crossover. This is a crossover and, you know, we're just gonna have to talk to chief. You as the boss will have to talk to chief. Congratulations.
Just another
So I'm
one.
doing my best to not be bossy.
Consider that, Elida.
Yeah, I think it would be really good to take it there because in our last meeting, I mean, the chief was talking about code compliance and some issues like police and code compliance, having like kind of unclear lines as to who does what. So I
Yeah.
think it sounds like it's very much so already on his radar.
Yeah, and like I said, we've been talking about it on the noise ordinance and some other things, and I'm glad to know that, I mean, we have a good relationship. I'll just reach out to him too and say, let's have coffee and talk about this, because yeah, it sounds like we can also internally do some, you know. So Russ, I won't join your working group, but I'm gonna be on my own working group of internal staff.
Yeah.
So I'll be doing my own thing, but complimentary to what you all are doing.
You'll be the boss of that work.
Yes.
Just another woman boss.
Yeah. Hey.
Okay.
There's a reason.
I've been married for 45 years. You know, so it's like-
Because I say things like the woman boss.
I understand she, and a happy wife is my life, you know, so it's all good.
So I want to ask you, Michelle, what would you like the commission? What would you, maybe the top 3 things, but what would you like to help us help you focus on?
I love that question. I think these solutions that we're talking, like the brainstorming of solutions, it seems like what I'm hearing is the top issue is the block sidewalks. And it sounds like it's a variety of different things blocking the sidewalks. It's the trash cans, it's the non-snow removal. It's the cars that are parked in various configurations on or portions of the sidewalk. I feel like that's the focus. Then you guys didn't bring it up, but I was thinking that you might bring up some of the vegetation stuff. I don't want to stir hornet's nest, but I do know that that is an item, and I know that just because of other calls that we get in. And so how can you best help me? I think really, do you guys have? I think just the solution, this working group of kind of what are different solutions, how you guys can participate. Sorry, I'm trying to process all this. Stacey, do you have any, I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you have any thoughts on that?
I mean, I think if there can be, I like the idea of brainstorming, right? Like, what are some things that we've identified, the commission has identified, and we can share those with you with the understanding that they may not all be possible,
Right.
but they may help inform the conversations you have internally.
Yes, I think that's a great way. And then I think, what I can, I think focus on from my end is, talking to Reggie, talking to city manager and just talking about those citations, understanding that process. I really liked the idea of, some, the forms, like maybe some things get the form. I think the other thing is if every call is a new call, that compounding and, so I guess I can't promise anything, but I'd like to look at the process and see if we have ways of making people push the brakes because they're afraid of what's gonna happen if the Reggie or Kevin get to them. So,
So if I might. um,
Yeah.
Perhaps if you, it sounds like you've already got some ideas and some solution
Oh, yeah.
oriented topics. If you want to share those with me via email, then I can just funnel them to Michelle. I don't want to necessarily get into a space where we're having another conversation about this, but I think if we can collectively or individually, right, provide me your suggestions, your recommendations, we give those to Michelle. And again, that goes into part of her process over the next months
Yeah.
in discussing with her team, with the city manager, with perhaps council. She then can bring back her feedback based on what we've sent her. Does that help? Does that make sense? Does that jive?
And I'm checking my calendar because okay, yeah, it is, so September 29th. I will share is my second, so I've kind of grabbed a group of divisions independent of this, but to talk about the winter maintenance, which is growing into the vegetation, and we're meeting again on the 29th. If you could get some of those ideas that you were talking about that might have a monetary, part of what we are talking about is how the divisions can maybe come together and make a budget request and it's it's focused on something, I think, tangential and not necessarily exactly for co-compliance, but I think they support each other. And then if I could have some of your ideas, if that's okay, I'll give you full credit. But I really do think that if that could help inform what we're all talking about as we're looking for solutions internally as an organization. And they'll be part of forming a budget
Oh,
request.
she's looking straight at you.
I know she's like, I have all kinds of fun suggestions.
Do you mind sending that to Stacy and then Stacy can get that sent to her?
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll be long.
That's
It'll take me a couple of weeks probably to type it all up.
Keith is as long-winded as his beard is.
Okay,
Yeah.
if you could try to get that by the 29th, so I have something, kind of take, officially
September 29th.
September 29th.
Oh, easy.
Okay, and your beard's not that long.
He's got a book like this where he joined this commission with a great purpose in mind and, he's kept copious notes, so you're gonna get a lot,
Okay.
but it's all good. It's all good, I can guarantee you.
That's perfect. I admire people who take that kind of.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if he should send that to Stacy to send to Michelle. I would also, and I think our next topic of discussion is the Flagstaff Regional Land, the regional plan for 2045. And I would like to point out that in the plan, as an action item to be funded, which are kind of the important action items. One of them is maintain streets, pedestrian paths, bikeways, crossings, and foot trails in good condition and free of snow, debris, and obstructions, so they are safe and functional for all uses regardless of transportation mode or ability.
Right.
Michelle,
And that's because we take this like Mary said, we take it seriously and.
And that's in one of the fund issues.
Right.
So, I mean, that's kind of good news, right? So,
Michelle, I'm gonna give you this. This was a letter that this commission on December 18th during our commission meeting last year. This is what we sent council and we sent it to Sarah Langley, right?
Sarah Dector.
Sarah
And
Decker.
I think Michelle may have been copied on that. I don't know, but
Yeah.
Take a quick look. If not, you can keep that, but that's the letter.
Actually, can I keep this? Cause I like paper.
Yeah. I'm a paper girl too, so. That's what we sent with recommendations and
Okay.
that sort of thing. And so I know that was part of it.
Yeah.
So,
And I actually think I have seen this, but it's nice to have a fresh copy.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
the context of this meeting.
yeah, I have one at home that has like my Bible notes.
Right.
My whole Bible is filled with notes, so same thing.
that's the letter regarding the regional plan.
Yeah, that we sent December 18th.
Yeah, I have it right here too.
So I got 3 things from you, Michelle. I mean, I got 2 of the 3. Clarification on the forms for the notice of violation is one of our top issues with you, our issues with you. Clarification on each call if it's a new call. I think with that one, I'm going to talk to the chief. And then I'll send to Stacy what happens with that. And then Stacy can forward it to you, just to get clarification about how he would expect his patrol officers.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
You know, are they responsible for block sidewalks? Are they responsible for trash cans? Let's get some clarification on that so that we know, is it you guys or is it chief?
Gotcha.
Um,
And just so you know, in the meantime, I'm also gonna be setting up time with Chief. and
Okay.
Having me, Chief and Reggie.
Okay,
Cause like I said, we've talked about this more on the noise ordinance side, but, also knowing that some of this falls into, I'm gonna call it a gray area of.
yeah,
And then there's the after hour thing, so I'd like to talk to him as well.
okay.
Yeah.
Are you even able to include me on that meeting, or do you want me to do that separately?
Why don't, okay, separately.
Yes, separately. Okay, okay. And then what is the third thing that you would like this commission to work on for you?
I feel like those are 2 big ones.
Okay.
Especially, I kind of feel like I round out the third by taking on the process. I mean, I feel like the ask of you all is kind of more clarity and documentation on the process and so,
Okay.
and the questions that I have that you've asked me to come or research.
And then I have a couple of different things that I'm gonna talk to him about as well. Weekend enforcement, I'm gonna find out about that. And then I'm gonna find out, and this kind of ran through kind of the air in between my ears. The civilian aides enforcing and interpreting those city codes. I wanna know, are they able to interpret them? Because Russ has had a huge problem with the civilian aid. And maybe he's misinterpreted it because he hasn't had training.
Yeah, and that, I like that, cause that's one of the things I wanted to talk about as well, is like. We have different people enforcing the same code at different times. Everybody needs to.
Yeah.
Interpret it the same. We run into that with zoning code quite frequently. So yes, that's a good one. And then I think that's something I'm interested in too, is there a way to get everybody trained?
Yeah.
What that looks
So
like.
I think the next 7-8 months before you come back here will be lit for you and it will be lit for us.
Okay.
So, and hopefully when we get back together, you will have solutions within the city and we can add to hopefully some of those
Yeah.
solutions. So,
And in the meantime, if you guys have some ideas you want to bounce off, if you want to send them to Stacy, and then I'll do the same. If I get some thoughts and want to just say, hey, could you put this to the commission? I'll just send them to Stacy to maybe get your thoughts or get a pulse on some things.
okay. Okay. Anything?
Just to thank you for being here.
Thank you guys for your.
Everybody,
Yeah.
and I feel for you.
I've been in this field for 20 years and I love it. And each day is kind of this. Yes. No, thank you guys all for the service that you provide to the community. It's much appreciated. And for the comments.
We're all very passionate, as you have found out.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with
And that's a
that.
good thing,
Yeah.
and it really is,
Yeah.
you know, because that'll offer solutions and possible paths to take.
Yes, and that, I really do appreciate that. I always appreciate solution focused.
And now when you hear around city staff meetings, that Russ Randall's a real jerk, you can just say, yeah, I know.
I like them.
I know that.
You got a vest and a badge.
That's
Yeah,
right.
we're gonna be with a badge. Think he's a jerk now.
So what's it gonna say on the vest and badge?
It could be,
TBD. I was gonna say TBD.
it could be a new catchphrase too. Hold the Russ.
That's right.
Aw.
Thank you for that, Paul. Thank you.
It could be a very positive thing.
No, thank you guys. Thanks.
Got a lot of work ahead of us. That's my agenda.
I like your note.
All right, we're gonna move on to discussion. Oh, we did that. Discussion and possible action regarding the regional plan 2445. Before we talk to this, I do have only about 5 minutes. So let's get this going because unfortunately, once again, paratransit has become my issue. They're sitting outside waiting for me and they give me 6 minutes.
I had an issue with them yesterday as well. I didn't have to like, all them, I got stuck.
I gotta start though, Joe.
Well, yeah, and if you leave, it's corporate.
Regional plan though. So, way back in the day, I did read the regional plan. That was the citizen review regional plan, which was the first draft of the regional plan. And I drafted the letter, which then the council, the commission approved to send to the council with all these additions of accessibility and inclusion and universal design. I can report back on the public hearing draft, which is the new draft of the regional plan, much improved. And my first comment is a huge improvement on the public review draft, creating a much more inclusive plan. Suggestions for improvement follow. In general, lots of statements about accessible access to places and inclusive places in general. And even some mentions of universal design in general. I think something that I would say is not a good thing to report on is that most of these comments about accessibility, inclusion, and universal design occur in the goals and policies part of the plan, not in the action part of the plan. The action part of the plan is where it talks about how these problems are going to be addressed. And then, and most importantly, maybe funding, like I said to Michelle, that's a really important thing as far as how I read the plan. So I think when I talk with the Citizens Review, whether I just do talk to them as a representative of this commission or just as a citizens today, I will talk about, I would like to see, or we would like to see more mention of accessibility and inclusion in the action part of the plan, as well as in the goals and policy part of the plan. Something else that's in the plan, which is a real drawback, is I think there are 25 or 30 maps, which are all color coded, which means they're inaccessible for folks who have visual impairments, particularly color blindness. I mean, they're completely inaccessible. And there are ways to fix that. I did mention that. I did talk about that at one of the open houses, or at both of the open houses that I attended. There are ways to fix that. And perhaps folks who are actually published in this will be able to fix it. That's kind of a problem though. All those maps are inaccessible. And then the other thing that I think is a real problem with the plan is in chapter 5. So chapter 5 is social and economic systems. And that includes things like housing and employment. There is no mention whatsoever of accessibility and inclusion. There's not a mention of accessible housing whatsoever in the entire chapter. And I think that's really problematic. But then, as I said, throughout the plan, there are a lot of mentions of accessibility. I would say in transportation, the chapter on transportation, lots of stuff about accessible and inclusive transportation. Roads, streetscapes, all that stuff. And like I said to Michelle, funding actually better streets and accessible streets and that kind of stuff. So that I thought was great. One of the drawbacks of the plan is that in the perks part of it, and the pros part of it, there's mention of accessible and inclusive recreation. There's no mention whatsoever of therapeutic recreation, which is a big issue for this commission because we have been working on that for a long time. Not a single mention of therapeutic recreation in this entire document.
Not a priority, I don't think.
Russ, do you mind if I interrupt you for a minute?
No, go ahead. I'm about done.
So we have this slated for next month to go further into it for you and Keith, I think, to come and do your presentation. I do have to go. And so I'm going to encourage each of you, there are 3 public hearings?
There are 3 public hearings. And I know the last public hearing is September 24th.
And this commission meets on the 17th.
Yes.
And so in the meantime, the other 2, you guys can go as private citizens. Have your say as a private citizen.
Rachel, what I would like to do is move.
Hold on. Go as private citizens. We can talk about the presentation on the 17th. The last public meeting is on the 24th. We can vote next month, and can we put it as an action and discussion?
It is already on the
Okay.
working calendar that way.
And then we can ask Russ and Keith to go as commission members. and represent us as commission. And it may be effectual because you guys can go as private citizens to the first two and then go representing the commission for the third. So I've got about 1 minute.
I'm gonna move that right now, we vote to approve Russ to represent,
I don't have time.
it's an action item.
I understand that, but we're losing quorum. We are losing quorum. I've got to go. I cannot miss my paratransit. They got me here 8 minutes late today. I can't miss it. And I'm at my 5th minute, so I've got a minute to get outside. I apologize. This code compliance was like, that's one of the things we discussed at summer meeting. And it's one of the things that we have had on the working calendar since then, correct?
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and move it anyhow.
Okay,
If this commission approved
we
me,
can't take a vote.
We need a second, and we can take a vote
Okay,
quickly unless you're leaving.
I'm gone. I am definitely gone.
I mean, I'm happy to second. He's done, Russ, you've done some good research, so.
so it's been moved and
Okay.
seconded.
Have a good one, Rachel.
We don't have a quorum.
We've just lost quorum.
All right. That's okay.
So-
I would love, can I see, like, is it possible, Russ,
Oh, yeah.
for you to forward the notes, or I can have the notes? Is that okay, Stacy?
Yeah, yeah.
I would love to review your take on it.
I made copies.
Russ, could you take those to me by mail so I can get them to the rest of the folks that aren't here physically? This is like a.
I don't know if I can.
You can.
No, I'm not a representative of the commission.
No, but what you're
Oh,
sharing
with this.
is to your notes that you.
Yeah, I'll think about that if I
Okay.
choose to.
All right. We are now adjourned. We've lost quorum.
And see.
That's extremely.
Thank you all. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.